Human rights advocates have blasted a Supreme Court decision to execute a death row inmate with a cruel, untested method deemed to be botched. Alabama's highest court granted Wednesday the state attorney general's request for an execution warrant for Kenneth Eugene Smith, a death row inmate convicted in the 1988 murder-for-hire slaying of Elizabeth Sennett in northwestern Alabama. The order did not specify the execution method, but the Attorney General indicated in court filings that it intended to use nitrogen to put Smith to death. The exact date of the execution will be set later. This move greenlights attempts to execute Smith using nitrogen gas, a method supposed to work by depriving the subject of oxygen and ultimately causing death by suffocation. The state tried to execute Smith by lethal injection last year, but called off the execution after hours of torturing him inside the death chamber because the execution team could not get the required 2 intravenous lines connected to Smith. While proponents have theorized the nitrogen method would be effective and painless, human rights organizations have erupted, likening it to human experimentation. Lawyer and advocate Maya Foa, joint executive director at Reprieve, an organization fighting human rights abuses, said the decision didn't surprise them. She said, "The Alabama Supreme Court has long allowed the state to conduct executions which amount to human experimentation, so this latest grim ruling comes as no surprise." Foa added, "For decades, Alabama has been torturing people in the execution chamber by lethal injection, causing appalling and needless human suffering. Secrecy, the rush to carry out executions, and the use of illicit and poor-quality drugs has caused scores of botched lethal injection executions in states across the USA. Execution by nitrogen gas promises to do the same." Kenneth Smith's lawyer, Robert Grass, pointed out that the decision was not unanimous and said there is hope for the court to realize that the plan is unjust. Grass said, "We are disappointed in this decision and will continue to pursue the enforcement of Mr. Smith's rights through the judicial process." He added, "It is noteworthy that 2 justices dissented from this order. Like the 11 jurors who did not believe Mr. Smith should be executed, we remain hopeful that those who review this case will see that a second attempt to execute Mr. Smith, this time with an experimental, never-before-used method and with a protocol that has never been fully disclosed to him or his counsel, is unwarranted and unjust." Hypoxia, meaning a lack of oxygen, occurs when a person's body is deprived of oxygen. In the execution, this would be attempted by providing nitrogen through a mask. Maya Foa, the joint executive director of NGO Reprieve, said, "There are so many ways this completely untested method of execution can go wrong." She explained, "Staff are tasked with ensuring the mask is correctly placed, yet there will be no staff present in the execution chamber during the execution. Nitrogen is odorless and cannot be detected without specialized equipment. There is a chance that as the individual starts to feel the impact of the nitrogen gas, they will thrash around and displace the mask, thereby reducing the efficacy of the gas delivery, which could lead to a drawn-out and agonizing death." She added, "Nitrogen gas can also lead to vomiting. If the prisoner vomits within the mask, this could cause them to choke and suffocate on their own vomit. The effect of using nitrogen gas on unwilling participants has not been analyzed, and because it has not been used as a method to execute anyone before, it is impossible to know how much prisoners will suffer." Ms. Foa went on to denounce Alabama's attempt to legitimize such a precarious method. She said, "Alabama continues to carry out grotesque human experiments on its death row prisoners. Last year, 3 executions in the state went catastrophically wrong, leading to men being tortured extensively in the death chamber, including the longest recorded execution in U.S. history." And she concluded, "Yet instead of acknowledging that it is not possible to execute anyone in a humane manner, the state is aggressively trying to use Kenny Smith as a guinea pig." According to Alabama's protocol, the inmate would be escorted into the execution chamber and placed on a gurney. A mask would then be fitted over their face. The warden would read the death warrant to the inmate and provide them with an opportunity to make a final statement, which can last up to 2 minutes. After the final statement, members of the execution team would conduct a final inspection of the mask to ensure it is properly in place. The warden, located in another room, would activate the nitrogen hypoxia system. This means the inmate would start breathing pure nitrogen gas. Nitrogen gas would be administered for a specific duration. According to the protocol, it would be administered for 15 minutes or 5 minutes following a flatline indication on the EKG, electrocardiogram, whichever is longer. The use of nitrogen gas for executions has been authorized in Alabama, Oklahoma, and Mississippi, but no state has executed a prisoner using this method. Alabama approved nitrogen hypoxia as an alternative execution method in 2018 amid difficulties in obtaining lethal injection drugs and ongoing legal challenges to the humaneness of lethal injection.